Welcome to this podcast. My name is Tessa Isabella. I work as an empowerment coach and spiritual mentor for mostly women, the occasional man, and my mission, my vision is that I want to help whoever I come in contact with to reconnect again with that thing which we call life. And when I speak about life, I don't necessarily mean the stories, the experiences, the drama sometimes, but most of all, I mean this energy, this thing, this experience that is within you, just as it's within my dog here behind me, the plants behind me, this thing called life. And so it's been a while since I recorded a podcast. And basically, I thought I'm just going to give myself space again to play. And so I thought, okay, if I can talk about anything that I want to talk about, what should it be? And basically, I want to dedicate this episode, and maybe it's going to be really long and I'll cut it up in little pieces instead. I want to dedicate it to things that I am passionate about. And not so much things in terms of food or music, which I'm also very passionate about, but the things that I'm passionate about when it comes to my work as an empowerment coach or a spiritual mentor. It's the things that when they happen or when I notice them in sessions with my clients, they just make me want to jump up and dance and celebrate. It's also the things that when I see them happening on social media or other platforms, the stuff that just makes me want to throw Instagram out the window and like shake things around and be like, what the fuck are we talking about? In that sense, also things that I'm passionate about. So the first thing that comes to mind right now is something that I've been actually working with all the people that I work with at one point or another, which is the most important question you will ever ask yourself. And this question is, who am I? And the beauty of this question is that at one point in your life, let's put it differently. If you are someone who feels like there's more to life than what you're experiencing now, if you're someone who feels like you sort of feel as if you're trapped a bit and you want to expand and you want to release and break free from things and you feel that you as a being can expand, because this is not something that everyone is aware of. If this is something that you experience, then at one point in your life, you will definitely ask the question, who am I? And I love it when this question comes up in sessions. Often, what happens is that sometimes it's from the first session onwards, or when we do like a discovery call and we talk about, so what is it that you're looking for? What kind of support or guidance do you need? People might already be at this stage where like, actually, I don't know who I am anymore. And I want some help with this. And sometimes people come to me and are like, hey, I have a great job and I have a beautiful relationship, but I struggle with things like overthinking and perfectionism. This is what I want help with. And then along the way, we come at a point where he or she asks, but who am I actually? And the reason why I love this question is because once you touch upon this question, it means that you are bound to experience at one point in your life the very essence of who you are. And to me, this is the most glorious thing possible. It is what drives me, it's what I'm devoted to, it's the very reason why I do this work. And so, what I mean when I say the question, or when you ask the question, who am I? There's two different levels on which you can ask this question. One is as a person with a personality, with talents, with likes and with dislikes. It's a fundamental thing, phase that you have to go through as a human being in order for you to establish yourself as a person. It's important to understand, what am I good at? What do I like? What don't I like? What do I want to contribute in this world? Because it's these things that will help you to live life in alignment. It's these things that will help you to look for the right job, live in the right environment. And by right, I mean the job and the environment that are in alignment with who you are as a person. So basically, what we're talking about on this level is the level of identity or personality. Who am I as a person? Maybe I'm extroverted or introverted, or maybe you actually discover that you're both. And like I said, the beauty of answering this question on this level is that it will help you to live your life in alignment. Once you go through this process of discovering who you are on an identity level, you will, no doubt about it, come to a point where you understand that thinking in terms of identity is too limiting. Because, like I said, maybe at one point or in one situation you're extroverted, maybe in the other situation you're introverted. Does this mean that you're not being yourself? No, you're still you. It's just in one situation you do this, in the other you do that. Maybe it changes because it makes you feel more comfortable. Maybe you change because it's more appropriate. Maybe it's in support of what it is that you're trying to achieve in that situation. And not only in terms of behavior or in personality traits, the same is for your thoughts and your emotions. We humans tend to be so identified with our thinking and with our feelings that it basically drives us crazy. And what I always say is that you have to understand that if, just as with the personality, just as with being extroverted then and introverted then, same with looks. This is how I always explain it. Let's say that tomorrow we're going to paint your hair purple. And now think for yourself, when I have purple hair, am I still myself? Yes, you are. You look differently, people might react differently to you, but you're still you. Now, let's say that the day after we're gonna chop off your leg. Are you still you? Yes, you are still you. You might walk differently. You might have some issues with not having this leg anymore. People might treat you differently, but deep down inside, you are still you. If today you feel angry and tomorrow you feel happy, does it mean that you're not yourself anymore? You're still you. If today your opinion is that summer is the best season of the year, and tomorrow when it gets really hot, you actually say, no, winter is so much better, does this mean that you're not you anymore just because you changed your opinion? No, you're still you. So when you go through the process of discovering your likes, your dislikes, your talents, your traits, your personality traits, your identity, you will come to a point where you understand that actually, no matter what the identity is, I'm always me. And different situations require different identities. When I'm sitting here, I speak and I behave and I do in a different way than when I go hang out with friends for a coffee. When I'm in a session, I speak differently than when I'm home with my family. So every situation requires or invites a different identity, a different version of you, meaning that there's multiple versions of you existing simultaneously that you can use or that you can activate in different situations. And this activating of a different identity is completely up to you. If I want to, I could also talk and behave like this, how I'm doing now in this podcast, when I'm with my friends. But I know it's not going to feel nice. I know it's going to feel weird because I'm not there to teach anything. I'm with my friends because I want to hang out and maybe even just talk bullshit. So you can choose consciously which identity do you want to activate, so to say, in what situation. And again, when you realize that there's multiple identities existing simultaneously, it will be so much easier to release the attachment that you have to a certain identity. Because this is what happens often, that we're so identified, we're so uh, connected, but in a tense kind of way, to being a certain way, that when the situation actually requires something else, or when it's actually more supportive for you to activate a different identity or a different version of yourself, we get anxious, we feel out of control. And probably your surroundings will also be like, oh, but I'm not used to you being like this. Humans like to have things the same way, understand why things are happening, have the illusionary feeling of having everything under control. But when you understand that actually you're not just one person, you're all of these people, you can choose which one you want to work with or play with, things loosen up. And you understand that you can decide consciously, but you don't have to have this tense kind of control over it anymore. Moreover, you don't have to get, your ego doesn't have to get bruised when one of those identities suddenly doesn't match anymore with the situation, or when you get friction because you're holding on so much to one identity, even though it's requiring something else of you. So everything becomes much looser, much more playful, much more fluid. I want to say fluent, but fluid. And so this is the beauty of the first level of asking, who am I as a person? And so when you come to the point where you understand, hey, there's multiple versions of me, you can start to see, hey, but if this is for me, if this is how it is for me, then this is also how it is for other people. I have multiple versions of myself, but the person that I'm speaking with also has multiple versions. Maybe you work an office job and your boss is in a certain way with you, but when he or she is at home with his or her family, they're a different person. So when you learn to loosen the grip on your own identity, you can also loosen the grip on other people's identity, which will be helpful for yourself as well as for the other person. Because it can be really frustrating if you are actually trying on a new jacket, let's say, a new identity, because you feel it's going to fit better. And the environment says things like, oh, but I don't know you like this, or you always used to be like this. And they sort of express their discomfort with the change that you are going through. It's much more supportive if everyone establishes a certain kind of looseness when it comes to identity. Now, going to the, let's say, second layer of asking the question, who am I? Now that you understand, or you start to understand, or better said, you start to feel, because understanding means rationalizing, means it's very limited. So when you start to feel, when you start to experience that there's actually multiple versions of you, you can come to a point where you start to ask the question, okay, but if I'm not this person, or if this identity is not set, if there's multiple identities simultaneously, and like cutting off a leg, chopping off an arm, if I take away those identities and another one and another one and another one, what actually remains underneath the identities, underneath the stories, underneath the constructs, the social constructs that you have created, or that people have told you? If you take those things away, you are still you. But what is this? What remains? And this is the most beautiful question you can possibly ask yourself. This is the point where you truly start to touch upon life. And again, not life in stories, identities, constructs, but life in, hey, what is actually in me? What is this actually? And the answer to this question is not something that you're going to find. Well, you might find it reading certain books, or listening to certain people. I could also tell you right now what, according to me, the answer to this question is: when you take away all the identities and all the layers, what remains? The thing is, it's not about you reading the answer somewhere or listening to the answer from someone. What it is about is that you dig so deep within yourself that you start to experience the answer. That is what is needed. That is what this system of yours is longing for, to touch upon it itself. Because again, if someone tells you the answer, it might give you a little aha erlebnis, it might give you a little eureka, but it doesn't compare at all to experiencing the answer yourself. And this is something that I'm so passionate about because I got to experience this as well. And this is my main purpose. Goal is a weird word, but this is what it's about for me when I work with my people, with my clients, uncovering and discovering first those identities, those personalities, those different versions, to then say, okay, now I know, but what if I put it away? What if I put this one aside? What remains? And this to me is the most beautiful journey, that in the end we're all on it. The difference is if you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. If you're doing it unconsciously, it's going to take a long, long, long time. You can spend multiple lives on it, many, 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 many. Or you do it consciously, which will speeden up the process and which will make your experience of this life so much more beautiful than you can possibly imagine.